Howdy, Duck fans, and welcome back to Ducks Digest. This is our second part of covering the number 3 Oregon's win over Arizona 41-19, and this is our defensive review. I'm Allie Osborne, and I'm here with Max Torres. Max, explain a little bit of a taste of what we're going to be talking about in today's show.
Yeah, we're breaking down the Oregon defense, like you mentioned, Allie. It was a weird bag here in this one, much like the offense.
A weird one.
But I think with the defense, what was so strange about it is, like we were talking about in the last video, statistically, Oregon was outmatched in just about every category, but the defense is, I think, ultimately what won them the game. I mean, I was having some conversations with my housemates. Some of them are also reporters, and we were kind of saying something along the lines of, if Arizona just didn't pass the ball, maybe they'd have a better shot in this one. 5 interceptions for Oregon. I was looking at some research today, and it was the most interceptions that they've had in a game since 1999 versus Cal, where they had 6. So that's a little fun Ducks trivia for you there. But yeah, this was a mixed bag for sure. Arizona moved the ball a lot better than people expected to. And I think that it proves again, what the staff was saying. You can't take anybody for granted. Obviously they didn't execute at the level that they wanted to. The pass rush continues to be a serious area of concern for me, and I'm sure that the staff's thinking the same thing. So I think that that's something that really was evident in this one. So that's kind of in a nutshell what I thought. Defense obviously wasn't great, but it's hard to argue with the results when they get some really big interceptions and some crunch time plays.
And a special thank you to quarterback McLeod for Arizona, who threw 4 of the 5 interceptions that were taken by the Ducks last night. It was his first U of A start, but 18th start overall. He's a transfer. But woof. 4 interceptions. He did end up running 64 yards and averaged 7.1, which Anthony Brown averaged about 3.4. So McLeod was running a lot more, but he was throwing a lot less accurate. And Max, could you tell us a little bit about how we were able to get those interceptions and how crucial they really were to the Ducks picking up that game?
Absolutely. When we're looking at these interceptions and the timeliness at, the times that they came in during the game, right? I think, the one of the biggest ones that stands out to me was Michael Wright's. I can't remember if it was the first or the second one. Maybe I can do a little bit of research here to figure things out. But the Wildcats were driving and threatening to score. But Bennett Williams was the first one. Now that I remember it, McLeod was dropping back on a screenplay. And then, he just put way too much air on the ball. Just was kind of confusing what his thought process was. Bennett Williams just laid it out completely to get that one. But
and Bennett Williams got 2 interceptions tonight. So how important is that, especially for Bennett coming out on this defense?
Man, they were huge. They were huge. The second one, I think, was more important ultimately in deciding the game. But much like Jalen Redd's touchdown in terms of setting the tone and just, delivering that opening punch, I think that Bennett Williams' first interception did just that, getting the ball back to the offense and, getting some points on the board from that. But his second one was huge. He didn't look like he had the best, position or path to the end zone when he made that second interception. But, just shucking guys off that were trying to tackle him just with arm tackles and just showing the determination to get to the end zone was amazing. And just for Bennett's role in this defense, Jamal Hill is back, but Bennett Williams has what looks like a really firm hold on that starting job at the star position, I believe it is. And I've been banging the drum for Bennett Williams to get more playing time since last season. That dude's just a beast. I will say I'm a little bit biased. He's from my hometown in San Jose. So 408 represent, but man, he's just been a huge breakout candidate, breakout player at this point. I feel like he's not a candidate and he's completely arrived.
And another big point for tonight was we saw the return of Kayvon Thibodeaux, which what? I don't think anyone was really expecting that. And he didn't stay in very long. At the end of the second quarter, he kind of limped off with a little leg injury, and I saw some folks taping him up. And Cristobal later said that Kayvon was the player that was really on load management, trying to make sure that injury wasn't aggravated again. And Max, could you tell us a little bit more about Kayvon only being in there for a couple snaps? Because what I thought was hilarious was as soon as you saw Kayvon run out there, Arizona calls a timeout. They're like, oh no, he's here. So can you take us a little bit more in depth with that?
Yeah, I think that it was definitely the storyline to watch coming into this game. Anytime a team's best player is a game time decision, or you're waiting to see if he's going to come. I know I have my binoculars up there in the press box, just glued to that tunnel. Okay, the DBs are out on the field, the wide receivers are out, the offensive linemen are coming out. Like, where are the defensive linemen? And then all the defensive linemen that weren't dressed, so they just came out in their jerseys, no pads, they had all come out. So I was kind of thinking at that point, okay, we're probably going to see him. And then I had to get my tweet ready. But to talk about his performance more specifically, I think that he clearly wasn't at 100%. He wasn't as impactful as people, or maybe the staff was expecting. Maybe I should say more so that fans were expecting. I feel like obviously the staff kind of knows where he's at, because they're the ones that are inside there and they're interacting with him every day. But it's great to see him just get out there before they like I said, really get going on their schedule. I think Cristobal was talking about after they were trying to get him anywhere from 6 to 10 plays, so they weren't really expecting him to have a big role in this one. But it is a little weird, the way that he exited the game and seeing him get taped up again. But as far as just want to reiterate what we're hearing from the staff. Cristobal was saying that he didn't re-aggravate his ankle injury. That's what we're being told as the media. But that rather he was on load management. So he wrapped up, that the comments on KT saying that they're really feeling good about where he's at and how he's going to be this week heading into Stanford. So certainly big for them for this defense to have him available heading into what has now become a massive matchup on the farm.
Oh, totally. And another thing I want to kind of touch on is the amount of penalties. We had 95 yards in penalties. Some of them would be the late hit by DJ Johnson gaining with a 15-yard gain, and also the call of holding in the third quarter, I believe, against the defense that really a lot of folks are arguing should be on the offense. And let's talk about, in terms of defensive play, how damaging those penalties were.
Yeah, I think that when we're looking at the penalties, we talked about it in the offense and how it kind of the offensive breakdown, kind of how it helped it just really slowed down their momentum. I think that's the penalties to a degree, were part of the reason that this defense was out on the field for as long as it was. They were just struggling to get off the field on third down. I believe Arizona was 7 for 15 on third down situations in this game. So you really got to take advantage of getting to those third down situations and then getting the job done to get off the field. And then what's more, just taking that a step further, Allie, they were 4 for 4 on fourth downs. So if you think it's bad enough to not get a stop on third down, their OC was of the mindset where, okay, I feel like we're moving the ball well enough, we're getting the push that we want, and we have them kind of knocking back on their heels on these fourth downs to be confident enough to just go for it. So I feel like that kind of just backs up what we were seeing, the lack of the pass rush and just kind of some dink and dunk plays that ultimately kind of allowed them to dot up this defense and move the ball like they did.
And a lot of the defense currently are younger guys on the roster for sure. And this is not exactly the Tim DeRuyter explosive defense that we were promised from fall camp. And one of the things I want to point out as well was Noah Sewell getting hurt late or getting scuffed up late. And is he all right? Is he okay?
Yeah. That's a good question. He's certainly the face of this defense when Kayvon Thibodeaux wasn't out there. He's all right. I know it was a little bit of a cause for concern when he went down. It looked like he was getting his left shoulder worked on by the medical staff. But Cristobal was asked about him after the game and was saying that they don't believe it's anything too serious there, and I believe that he came back in the game if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
So that dude's just an Iron Man. There's no other way to put it. He's just an absolute tank. If there's anybody I am confident about in this defense, just in terms of bearing down. Shout out to Arizona, bear down. That was probably super cringe, but just being gritty and just getting back up and muscling through the pain. It is Noah Sewell. I think he's just a phenomenal player. He's all over the field, super physical. He was one of the reasons I think that Mykel Wright was able to snag that interception.
Mhm.
McLeod let that thing fly right as Sewell was just slamming into him. So even though we're not seeing that pressure there, maybe in the traditional sense of sacks and hurries, we're certainly seeing it show up in ways like that.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing to point out, especially for Arizona, a positive for the Wildcats, their offensive line was really pushing. There were multiple drives where the boys it's a culmination of young guys and transfers for sure on that Arizona offensive line, were really able to keep that Oregon defense from basically stopping them. Could we talk about that?
Yeah, we definitely can. We were talking earlier about the time of possession and just how lopsided that was. I think
Mm-hmm.
another when we talk about the run and just the push that the Arizona offensive line was able to get, they ran 53 pass plays to just 30.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, 53 run plays to just 35 pass plays. So that shows you the confidence that they had, that they were able to get the ball moving on the ground. 202 rush yards. It's
Over
definitely
187 from Oregon, by the way. 202 over 187. Continue.
Yeah, exactly. Allie, they were outgaining Oregon, outperforming Oregon in almost every category except for maybe interceptions on defense. So they were able to pound the rock. And the reason that I think that is a little concerning for an Oregon defense is the fact that through 3 games going into this, it looked like the run defense was an area of strength for Oregon.
Mm-hmm.
And they were able to pound the rock. 3.8 yards per rush compared to Oregon's 6. So kind of maybe they're a way of, an instance of the numbers not telling the whole story. But yeah, they really moved the ball well on the ground. And I think that was part of the reason they were able to move the ball well through the air as well. 11.1 yards per pass. And yeah, it was a lot easier than people expected them. A lot easier to move the ball than a lot of people expected. And I think that, I don't want to harp on it too much, but I really do feel like that comes back to the pass rush. And it's worth mentioning that we didn't see KT as much as we maybe would have hoped to. And then perhaps the second best pass rusher on the team, Braden Swinson, was held out of this one.
And going forward, we're talking about the pass rush right now. What can the Oregon defense do to make that better for upcoming games? Because we've got Stanford next week. Like, what's going to happen?
Sure. I mean, that's got to be one of the biggest questions for the staff right now as they're starting to evaluate this matchup and break down the film from Arizona. I think a lot of it comes down to physicality, to get off on the defensive line, and the execution, block shedding, block destruction. Mario Cristobal likes to talk about that a lot. So it's not just a simple question to answer. There's not going to be just one fix. You're going to have everyone in that front seven executing executing the plays the right way. But when we're looking at maybe a potential solution, obviously getting Thibodeaux more involved if he is permitted to do so by the staff is going to be big. We'll see if Swinson comes back in this one. That'll obviously be a boost. But DJ Johnson, one of my hopes for this game was to see a lot more of him on defense, and boy did we. He had some good plays on defense, and it looks like he's really settling in there as I believe he started on defense in this one. Did see him a little bit on offense, but it looks like he's in the position to make more of an impact on defense. That's been one of my favorite stories to follow, especially because the freshman tight ends are doing so well, like we talked about in the offensive breakdown.
Exactly. And is there anything else that we want to really look at? A quick shout out to Camden Lewis, by the way. I believe he got every single kick correctly, and he also, this is for every time Camden Lewis has been the main kicker, the Ducks have been 8-0. So Shout out to the man's Camden.
There you go. Yeah. So Camden Lewis, it's always kind of hard to see when to figure out when you want to put the special teams in. Is it an offensive kind of deal or a defense? Because you kind of see him in both ways. But
Mm-hmm.
Camden Lewis hitting 2 kicks yesterday. The first one from 21 yards out early in the first quarter, following I believe it was following that Bennett Williams interception. So we want a touchdown there, but at least being able to get some points on the board is big. And then the second field goal coming early in the fourth was from 43 yards out. So Camden Lewis really looks like he's battled back. And is looking confident mentally. The mentality of a kicker or a punter for that matter is just I feel like a bigger part of the game than maybe some of these other positions because all the eyes are on you. But the special teams were a strength for Oregon in this one. Thompson only punted twice, and one of those punts was for 52 yards, which is great to see. So we want to talk about some special teams there. There's a couple more things I wanted to wrap up on the defense, but just because we talked about special teams, it's definitely appropriate to talk about those guys.
Oh, absolutely. And what else are we going to be wrapping up here?
Sure. Yeah. When we're talking about the some of the stronger performances on defense, we have to mention Verone McKinley. I mean, that dude is all over the field, and he's just so solid. I mean, a lot of his teammates are saying, in these interviews after practices, after games, that Verone knows what's happening before the ball is even snapped. So it just shows you how much of a handle he has on the game and how dedicated he is to film study, to going to those meetings, being on the same page with everybody. I was listening to the Oregon Coaches Show last week, and Marcel Yates, the secondary coach, was talking about that. Specifically with the safeties, Yates's group. He was saying after that Ohio State win, I came into work early the next morning, or what I thought was early, at 7:30 on that following Sunday, and Verone was in his office wanting to watch film on Ohio State and start prepping for Stony Brook. So Verone McKinley, the general, as he's called, he's living up to the billing. We wrote earlier this week, John Rustick wrote a story about how he's generating some legitimate first round NFL draft buzz, and he's got a pick in, I believe, every game this season so far, which is pretty insane. Okay, for the third straight game, excuse me. But just, some more cool facts here. Shout out to the Oregon Athletic Department for these notes here. First Oregon player to come away with an interception in 3 straight games since Eric Dargan. And then he also added 6 tackles, with 4 of which were solo. So, he's all over the field. And as long as he's back there, there's definitely got to be some confidence. And I think he's a huge reason why this secondary has elevated their play so much early on in this season.
And speaking of cool little factoids, this is the first time an Oregon team has forced at least 13 turnovers in a 4-game stretch since September 28th through October 19th, 2013, when Marcus was behind the center. So interesting as well. Is now, Max, are we going to be wrapping up here?
Yes. Yeah. I think that was most of the things that I wanted to touch on. We're definitely going to have more breakdowns coming out soon. Depending on, these videos take a while to get processed and uploaded, but we're working on getting some grading stories out. So that's kind of a new little story type that we're going to roll out on Ducks Digest. So that's grades for the offense and the defense in this one. So you can read a little bit more of the the in-depth breakdowns there. That'll be from myself as well as our Dylan McKinnon.
Amazing. And Max, drop where we can find you.
Absolutely. So you can find me on Twitter at mtorresports, and you can also find me on YouTube. My channel is Oregon Football Max Torres. Kindly ask that you subscribe to the channel. Really, really helps us keep doing our thing here, covering the Ducks at Ducks Digest. Only takes a second or two out of your day, and we really appreciate it. And then you can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all at Ducks Digest.
You heard the man, Ducks Digest, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and follow him at Max Torres on his YouTube, and also follow him on his Twitter and his Instagram. You can find me at Ali Sosborne on Twitter and Instagram, and you can also find me every day at Central Oregon Daily News in Bend. Have a good night, you guys, and go Ducks.